to hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. That was surprisingly painless.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Mariah.
Ms. Rollins, thank you for your note about the sidewalk.
Well, you're welcome.
All right, I got 6:30. Looking for David here. Well, I guess I can start with taking minutes if I need to.
AJ, I can do that for you.
I was going to say you should ask for a volunteer at least. There's
okay.
David. There's David.
Ah, there he is. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I'm not sure. We might need a few more people for some votes on a few of these things, but we can at least provide updates on some of these items.
Hey guys, hello. I've been on audio, but I had to get my webcam set up.
Yeah, so I guess we can start out with welcoming Jeremy here. So this is Jeremy's first meeting after joining our board. So I don't know if everybody's had a chance to say hi to him, talk to him.
I'm just here for the free bicycle. So that's.
We'll see what we can do about that.
That's a drawing. You might win it, you might not.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So far, nobody's won it.
That's interesting. I feel misled a little bit here, but okay.
Who told you that?
It's really
AJ?
No, I don't know who it was, but no, I'm really excited about it. I like just a quick background. I work in the internet space now, but my favorite job that I ever had was working for Transport for London. So I kind of have had a bug for public transportation and I've always ridden bikes. And so here in Conway, I've tried to find different ways to kind of help. I chaired the 2035 Public Transportation Committee, and I'm always pestering the board about like various different ideas. I even drew a whole bike map thing that I've shared with a few people. So I'm excited about kind of being involved in an official capacity, and I'm going to stay pretty quiet tonight just to listen. But I am excited, and I appreciate all the work that you guys do.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. If I'd been thinking, I would have asked you to introduce yourself, but thanks for
all right. You're a little rusty. You're just it's your first meeting as chair, right? So it's
that's true.
We're all new here.
Yeah. All right. So I will also introduce. I don't know if anybody was here, but Pam. Do you go by Pam?
I do. Yes.
Okay. So Pam had an issue with some parking that she let us know about. So I invited her to join our meeting. And I think that portion of the agenda comes up fairly quickly. So you are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like after that. If not, feel free to drop off. But welcome to the meeting, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
So we'll start here. Roll call. I don't necessarily think we need to go over that. David, are you good with the list of people on the screen here?
Just to clarify, is City Hall someone?
I'm not sure if it's monitored. I think it's, since they set up the meeting, they have to have a presence.
That's what I was thinking. I just wanted to confirm.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not positive on that.
We just got a notification a few minutes ago, right at 6:30, said that Conway Corporate was live.
Yeah. So this should be broadcast just like the regular meetings are and recorded as well. So, and it looks like I think we're pretty safe on the quorum here. Any comments on the minutes from November meeting? And if not, just looking for a motion to approve those.
Motion to approve. There's no discussion on it.
I'll second.
Awesome. All right. So just a few updates here. I did send an email out about the ordinance we had proposed regarding parking and bike lanes. As you may have seen, that passed, and that's ordinance O-21-129. So you guys
were you gonna vote on the minutes, AJ, or just have a motion and a second and that's it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we need to vote on that?
I don't know. You got a motion and a second, so
yeah, I guess
it's an action of the board.
That's true. We should vote on that, shouldn't we? So let's go ahead. I think everyone's in front of a computer, and if not, just to make it easier on David tonight, if we could vote just by typing, I think that would be ideal. So just give him a yes, no, aye, nay.
Where do we type? In chat or something?
Yes. Yeah. And I should probably provide I'll do a heading next time we take a vote so we can kind of separate them. Thanks, Peter. Thanks for reminding me we need to vote on that. That looks like a yes from everyone. All right. So back to updates. So proposed ordinance passed. This was a follow-up, the pedestrian and bicycle safety on Adams Brook Trail. This was a follow-up from November. There is an attachment here on the agenda. David took a picture of that particular crossing for us. Unfortunately, this was brought up right as our transportation department is transitioning here. So we did contact Finley about this, but never heard back. So we're still waiting on to get word on who will be our new contact point there. The picture certainly seems to show, so Finley mentioned that if the brush there is within 10 feet of the road, we may be able to trim that back. The picture seems to indicate that it is within, it depends, that was a question I had, if there was somebody from transportation here or if somebody else knows.
If you would like, I'm happy to take the lead on that, contact the landowner and make them aware and either receive permission for the street department to cut it back, or they may choose to maintain it themselves, obviously. So. Okay.
Yeah, that was another question. So the first question I had was if that was 10 feet from the center of the road, in which case it looks like that's what's being maintained, or if it's 10 feet from the edge. If it's 10 feet from the edge, that certainly looks to be a little bit over that, but yeah, I'm just not sure. So yeah, Terry, that'd be great if you'd like to follow up on that.
I feel pretty confident in saying it's not from the center because there are very few roads in Conway that are 10 feet from the center.
Yeah, I don't think it's from the center either, but it's still best to, appeal to the safety side of things instead of enforcing something like that. That'll be kind of my last ditch effort.
Yeah, that was my other question. It seems like there's probably a certain amount of land on each side of that, what are we calling this? This waterway that the city would be maintaining, like an easement or something. So I'm not sure if that's technically someone's property or not. So yeah, just a little bit of clarification there would probably help.
It's 30 feet. What I've been told in the past is the easement's 30 feet from the Tucker Creek Trail. I don't know how the actual creek affects that. But.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, we will pass that along to our next meeting and hopefully find out some additional information there.
Yeah, it's been maintained in the past, so I don't think this is the first I can recall that's been grown up like that, where it's a hazard whenever you're coming up on that intersection. So I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Okay, great. All right. And then the final item of old business here, safety enhancements along Markham Street. This was something that we talked about in November as well. And we've actually requested a meeting with the mayor's office to kind of clarify how we should pass along these recommendations. That was the middle of December, and still hoping to get that set up. Followed up with them a few times, and hopefully we'll get something set up and be able to pass that along.
AJ.
Yes.
How are we proceeding to find out who our transportation person is?
That's a good question. I I would hope that we would be contacted and somebody would let us know. If that doesn't happen, I mean, that's something that we can talk about in that meeting with the mayor. I'm happy to follow up on it. I believe might have been somebody on the board here who said they introduced a couple people at the last city council meeting, or I'm sorry, not the last one, but the one that I was at, where they discussed this ordinance. And it sounds like we have replacements, there's a couple people coming in, and I'm not sure which one is going to be our contact or who will be our ex officio member from transportation. So that's something I'll either pass along once I'm informed, or I'll check with when we have a meeting with the mayor.
Sounds good.
I
Great.
sent a message to my contact at the street department to see if they happen to know the answer. So,
Okay. Yeah, feel free to jump in at any point if you hear back from them during our meeting here.
yeah.
Just one quick note on the Adamsworth thing. I'm going to paste it into chat here. But on Google Street View, you can see a historical view of what it looked like different season. This is from June of 2013, but you can get a pretty good view there too. Just Terry, if you need one more thing that shows a historical indication of what it was, it's I think even more overgrown then. Just sort of one more data point in addition to the picture that you've got.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it gets like that occasionally, and then it's trimmed back, and then so we'll bring it to their attention. I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought to do that. Thanks, Jeremy. All right. So let's move on to new business here. So this first item here is just a revision to our bylaws. So since we created the bike and pedestrian coordinator position, or the city created it, makes sense to add that as an ex officio position. So our bylaws say that we need 2/3 vote of the full board, which is which is a little tricky. And I did confirm with Charles that is indeed the full board. So depending on how I don't think we have enough people here to vote on this, unfortunately.
Wait a second. What did you confirm with Charles is the full board?
So our bylaws currently state that we need a 2/3 majority, or a 2/3 vote of the full board membership to approve any changes to our bylaws.
And once again, you're counting ex officio members?
Correct, yeah. So that would put us at, so that's 14 members, unless we're saying that we don't currently have a transportation member, which puts us at 13. So we either need 9 or 10, but I don't think we have either of those at the moment.
When you say, I'm a little confused here, wouldn't that ordinarily be, voting members, ex officio don't vote?
So ex officio actually are able to vote. It's pretty typical that they would abstain, but I think in instances like this, it does make sense that they would be voting on bylaws, and that's what Charles confirmed. If we can always change that, or we can make the bylaws a little bit more specific. Unfortunately, the way it's currently set up, we would need a vote to change that. So I'm not really sure. This may be another item that we need to clarify.
As you know, AJ, I think we do need to clarify that. We've never operated with ex officio as voting members. I don't think it was anybody's intention when it was set up that ex officio would be voting members. Then you'd have half of your board would be city staff. And then our board would be not dominated, but heavily influenced by city staff, which would be strange. So I will volunteer to be on the committee that's indicated in the minutes, the committee to revise the bylaws.
Oh, okay. Awesome. I was not actually planning to create that committee, but it's
in the minutes.
Yeah. That was discussed as an option. And the plan was I was going to just kind of trickle those through with suggestions. But yeah, if there's interest there, I'm happy to make a committee for that. I'll follow up with you on that.
Yeah,
Peter.
we can talk about that for sure.
So according to Robert's Rules of Order, which is what our board is essentially operating under, ex officio, there's no restriction on voting for ex officio unless it's defined in the bylaws. Our bylaws don't define any restriction there. That's something we could change, but again, that would require a vote of 2/3 total members, and since we're not restricting that, that includes everybody. So anyway, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. We can go ahead and move on here, get to next item. So this is the parking issue, and this is actually something the board has addressed before. I think this has come up, and it seems to be a recurring issue. And so I did want to discuss this, especially since Pam had contacted us. And there is a considerable amount of information here. I'm hoping everybody was able to read the note that Pam wrote to kind of get an idea of this particular situation. And I went ahead and included the current ordinance there that's published, and then some maps and pictures to kind of show where this specific issue is. So all that considered.
AJ, do you want to share your screen real quick and bring that up so everybody can see it at the same time?
I can try. Let's see. So I just got a message here that the host has disabled screen sharing. So I'm gonna guess that's the city's account. So I'm not able to share my screen.
They said go ahead and try again.
Try again.
Let's see, I think this should do it. Are you guys able to see that?
It's kind of small print.
Let me see. This drop down thing keeps. Let's see if this.
Smaller yet.
How's that? Is that any better?
Good on my end.
It's better, yeah.
All right, so I guess why don't I go ahead and just turn it over to you, Pam, if you want to kind of discuss this particular issue that you've been having. Feel free to reference if there's any of these pictures here. I'm happy to scroll through and illustrate those, but just kind of give us an idea of, if you want to give us some of the history here, and we can open it up for any questions if anybody has any questions, but just to kind of give us an idea of what's going on here. And you don't have to go super deep into detail. I'm assuming everybody has read the note here that was in the agenda, so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, thank you. And thank you all for letting me be here and voice my opinion. I was truly aggravated with the code enforcement officer for the reasons that are listed there. I don't think his response was well reasoned or thought out in the least. And I'm sort of hoping that the problem has just gone away, but I don't have any way to know that. This incident is on the 1500 block of Prince Street, which is occupied by the First United Methodist Church on the north side. And the sidewalk crosses the driveway at this particular residence. I've seen 3 cars parked in this place. And I will say that the car does not pull up into the driveway and park. The car maneuvers so that, or the driver of the car maneuvers the car such that the car is aligned with the sidewalk, not the driveway. The long axis of the car aligns with the sidewalk. So that's a point that I want to make. And the other point I want to make is in response to the officer who said that it is the responsibility of the pedestrian to cross the street and use the unobstructed sidewalk on that side of the road. Well, that's possible for an able-bodied person, but on the side of the road where the church is, there are curbs. So a person who is using wheels would not even be able to get up on the sidewalk on the opposite side of the road. And I do not think that was the intention of the city when they made the improvements of the sidewalk on the south side. So again, I'm perplexed about why the code officer went to the house once to enforce it and then decided that it was no longer reasonable to enforce it. And I didn't know that the code officer actually had the authority to decide which ordinances to enforce and which ordinances not to enforce. I think he may be wrong about that.
So if I can just jump in here a second, and I apologize, you sent me a picture with the vehicle parked on the sidewalk, so I don't know if everyone can see my screen. The picture you sent me actually showed a vehicle parked right here on the sidewalk, parallel to the road, almost like it was a parking space. So, but so when I read your statement there, it sounded like initially a police officer came and requested that the homeowner park on a different street if they weren't going to park in the driveway. And then it sounded like code enforcement followed up after that and essentially said, I believe your words were they didn't feel it was reasonable to enforce that ordinance in this particular location. Is that accurate, or was it code enforcement both times?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't know. The woman that I spoke to didn't specify who came to me. Okay. She said someone came and told them to park on another street. So I don't know where to go with this from here. I've really not gotten any response from the code officer again, or I had emailed the city attorney and I didn't get a response from him either. So kind of at a dead end.
You might talk to your council person.
Well, I emailed her as well and I never got a response from that person either.
Who was that?
Sheila Isby.
Okay. And just
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So from the initial involvement of the code enforcement, they've continued to park in that same manner.
That they did for a while, but it has not happened in about 2 weeks now. So I'm just sort of hoping the problem has gone away.
Okay.
And that would be a blessing.
Yeah, maybe it got through to him.
My intent is not to give you legal advice, but what I would tell you for record's sake, if you continue to see that, if you could take photos, and then I'm happy to provide my email address and you could send those to me. And then I'm happy to approach that through city channels to ask why it's not being handled. You may have to call again as well. So
something I just wanted to mention, this is the first thing I noticed. So this driveway here, there actually does seem to be a garage for a single vehicle, and then it almost looks like they poured cement here for a second vehicle. So there's actually space for parking. Looks like you could get 2 vehicles in there. And then based on the recommendation to park on a different street, this is actually from Google Street View. So this is actually at the corner of Center and Prince. Center Street is a fairly wide street. And in this picture, you can actually see a vehicle parked in front of the house here on the side of the street. So it does seem that there's, a fair amount of parking. I don't know at what point, if the response is it's not reasonable to enforce here to say, someone doesn't have adequate parking. I'm not sure, at what point do we say there does seem to be adequate parking? I don't know. This is probably getting too far into it. I don't want to spend a ton of time here. It sounds like Terry is offering to follow up on this. So I think it sounds like we've kind of got that figured out for now. I guess my question was, I was hoping someone could inform me on what the current enforcement looks like. Because I've essentially heard the same thing. It's the city tends to not enforce this in areas that they deem where it's unreasonable to enforce it. And I'm not sure if that's still the case or kind of what that looks like. If anybody has a better idea of that than me, I'd be interested to hear it.
Three things. This is actually a corner just across the street where a former board member lives, so that's fun. 2, I go by that several times a month, and I have certainly seen people parking there. It's not irregular. And I am in general, let me say, I am 100% opposed to the concept that gets floated from time to time that it's reasonable to expect people to cross the street, both in terms of building sidewalks only on one side of the street and in general. But that particular intersection, if you look at the curb, you took the picture down, but that's fine. It is one of the worst road curb because there's a drain. And so it's a huge step rather than being you could literally fall and break your entire leg. It's not an ankle situation. It's like a falling down to your waist kind of situation at that particular intersection.
Goodness. Yeah. So let's see. Just looking back at first of all, does anybody else have any questions or anything for Pam here before we move on?
I have a comment, AJ.
Sure.
I just think this is a really good example of a situation where there is ample parking right in front of the residents. There's really no need to be blocking the sidewalk. And I think this is a really good opportunity to set precedent in enforcing it. And I think overall, to me, this is an accessibility issue more than I think anything at all. I mean, yes, everybody should be able to use the sidewalk, but I agree with Ms. Rollins and that this is, someone who is using a wheelchair cannot navigate that area. And I think our board, stands for equity and access for all. So I think that's kind of where I'm coming from on this.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate because if you go back to that picture, there's a little bit of concrete, then you have that pole. And so that side, I would rather somebody go out there and take measurements. That may be why they decided not to enforce that. Because if you look at it, is there enough room to park a vehicle or not because of that pole? So if you go out there and take measurements, maybe not. You can't tell until that, because it's not near as wide as what that one car garage is, if you actually look at the picture. Also, if they pulled in front of their one car garage, pulled into their driveway and just parked in front of their one car garage, they're still going to block the sidewalk. They're just going to be out of the road. So what's a person to do? They're not pulling in sideways anymore. They're pulling in straight into their driveway, but it is their driveway. So are they never to park in their driveway? Only in their garage or on the
technically it's not theirs. That's the right of way.
That's what I'm asking. So maybe that's why code enforcement, after measuring that out there, went, well, it's one of those situations. So that's where, again, getting with code enforcement and getting the actual.
The one thing too there's not enough. There's not enough concrete between the garage door and the sidewalk to park a vehicle, and I don't know, and I don't want to assume, but I don't know that current code, if they permitted to add that garage on now, that they would ever be allowed to put a garage on that is that close to the street. I'm just making an assumption there. So this might be a problem that started 40 years ago, whenever that garage got added onto the house. And I don't want to say they're grandfathered in, but that might be the code enforcement person's way of handling it. Is we kind of made this mistake, so we kind of have to live with it. Now, I'm not saying that's correct either, but we'll have to find a way to address it.
I am confused about the idea that something in front of a garage, like it's not the garage, it's in front of the garage. So I don't see that as being an issue because they have a garage.
Not everybody, yeah. How many people can park in their garage? You drive around, there's a ton of houses. You can't create a law that says you have to park in your garage just because you have one. But you can create a law that says you can't park on the street. Exactly. So that's what I'm saying.
Sidewalk,
yeah. So
I don't want to spend too much time on this, but and I messed up here. So the picture that I forgot to include showed the vehicle. It's actually, I believe it's a smaller Honda sedan. I think they could park on that strip there. I mean, I feel like that would be a possibility. I couldn't see from the picture that was provided if there is already a vehicle there. And then again, they're right on the corner there of Center Street, which is a very wide street, and there is a fair amount of parking. Another question I had was just measuring on Google Maps. It looks like there's about 80 feet from the intersection to the edge of their property line along Center Street. I don't know if there's an ordinance that would prevent parking that close to an intersection. So that was another question I had, but we're not going to get the answer to that. So I guess what I wanted the outcome here, we can kind of just figure out our general feelings. We may not agree necessarily unanimously on the solution to this parking issue, but I think we could make a recommendation in terms of the ordinance. So right now the ordinance says there's no parking on sidewalks, and that's it. It seems like if they're going to allow exceptions, they should maybe specify that. We could also recommend, if this is not an enforceable ordinance due to whatever reason, historical issues with how houses were built or add-ons were approved or whatever, that maybe we just say if this ordinance isn't enforceable, then maybe we should have it removed. I don't personally think that would be a great way to go, but I'm open to hear if there's general consensus on that.
AJ, can I make a comment/question?
Sure.
Can we at least just follow through on this particular instance? Like, I think, Terry, am I understanding that you'll take this specific example to the city and get an explanation as to what is and is not permitted? I would just love to use this as kind of a case example of kind of how we deal with the situation. And I think we can learn a lot from that and then maybe go from there.
I'm happy to do that. Kind of what I was offering Pam was it seems to have not occurred for a couple of weeks. So I feel like it's more proactive if there's an active complaint. They seem to have kind of filed that one away, but I'd like to have more photos of something more recent if it starts to occur again so that I can go to them with that. So, and I've provided my email there for you, Pam. Can you see the chat?
Yes.
So, yeah.
At the risk of getting a reputation for Google Maps sleuthing, there is an image of that house with a car parked in the driveway area, which I will share here in the chat. I just took a screenshot of it so that you could do it, but you can clearly park a car there, and I do think that post does create an issue to raise point. Like, you kind of have to turn it at an angle, but it does look like it's possible to park a vehicle in there. It may not be easy to get out because it is tight, but it does look like it's possible anyhow.
That answers in my head. My question was, if you pulled in there, could somebody get out of the passenger side? That kind of answers my question on that. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So at this point, this is not a vote, but I feel like we could probably say that the board has a general consensus here that the ordinance is of use. We do feel like it probably has a purpose and that it should probably be enforced. Is there anybody who would disagree with that, I guess?
I guess I like Officer Kerr is here. Isn't it true that officers have discretion on all sorts of ordinances all the time?
That is true.
So
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, you said yes. It is true.
It is. And not knowing what was discussed with that officer, I personally don't know the code enforcement officer right now, but I don't know what information he had to make that decision.
Yeah.
But yes, officer discretion on a lot of things. There are some laws that read we must. There are some laws that read we can. So depending on how it's written is if we have to or if we don't have to.
Thank you. I think the best way is to let Terry follow up on this a little bit, especially if there's another picture of this happening again. But you could follow up in any case, I think, and find out how it was handled, maybe.
Yeah. Pam, did they give you a case number or anything on that?
No.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, let's wrap this up. I guess so my concern would be for, if this arises in the future, what can we kind of come up with something that we would recommend as far as what we think is a reasonable response to that, and see if we can get kind of the city and everyone on board to come to some agreement, because right now it seems like it's kind of enforced sometimes and sometimes it's not enforced. Do we need a motion here to provide a recommendation? I guess I'm not sure if there's.
I don't think so. I think right now we're waiting on Terry to gather more information.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be with that.
Well, I will put that down. We'll follow up with that next time we meet and we can discuss it further there. Any last comments? Looks like Pam is gone. So I was going to say, oh no, she's still here. Any last comments for Pam or anything before we move on here?
I was just going to add, that is in the area I patrol, and I'm on days now. So if I see the car there, I'll go make a consensual encounter and just try to look into it a little bit myself.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate that. All right. So sorry, not the final thing. We've got, so in our November meeting, we voted to, the idea was submitted to form a committee to look at suggestions or to provide some formal feedback from the board on the current Connect Conway proposal. So tonight, I'm going to go ahead and put forward some some committee members that will be looking at this. I had a few other people contact me saying they were interested. I kind of wanted to keep this a little bit smaller just because it starts getting really complicated when you add more people trying to find meeting times. So let me also just say before we, take a vote on this, if you have some specific feedback that you would like to provide and you're not on this committee, feel free to contact myself or anyone else. I'm sure would be happy to pass along any recommendations, but for the sake of this committee, I wanted to keep it a little bit smaller. So the proposed members are myself, and I would be chair, and Jeremy also expressed interest, as well as Josh in terms of members.
Hey, AJ, you should specify which Jeremy, because we've got two now.
I'm sorry, Jeremy Chrysler, our newest board member. And bylaws also say that we should specify a final report. I think we would probably want to provide feedback sooner rather than later. My plan is to have some feedback ready by our next meeting that we can share. But I believe the city is planning to submit this proposal in June. So I just went ahead and put a final report for July at the 1st of July in case we want to work on anything further. So any comments on this? And if not,
just to clarify, what exactly is so this is just a committee to determine feedback for the Connect Conway grant proposal that the city will be putting forward?
Yes. Yeah, just providing our formal feedback or any suggestions we have, that things we think should be added.
AJ, you have taken Isaac's place on this committee, correct?
So this is a
city
committee.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Yeah. So this is a committee for our board. There is a committee that is headed by Shelley Mail, who is the city council. What would we say? She's the representative for Ward 2. Is that the correct? Am I using the correct words there, Peter?
Yeah, she's the at-large representative for Ward 2, I believe, officially.
Okay. So yeah, and so that's a committee I'm on. I did, since we are the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, I thought it would be appropriate for us to provide some feedback on, a proposal for bike and pedestrian paths that are being considered, routes and different portions of that. So,
well, of course, they did come to our meeting once and give a hour-long presentation.
Right.
Both Finley and James. So we've been involved there, and Isaac's been on it from the beginning, right?
Are you asking me? I'm not entirely sure.
Yes,
yeah,
I think he was.
Yeah, yes. He was. Yeah.
So my thoughts were, if there was any feedback that we wanted to provide beyond just some comments at the end of a presentation. This gives us a chance to kind of sit down and look at things, maybe form thoughts a little bit more thoroughly, that type of thing. So.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
Does the July 1 report deadline from that committee of BPAB, does that align with the timeline that the city has for developing their proposal?
Yes. Sorry, I may have, I probably wasn't very clear on that. So I believe the plan, actually Kyle can probably give us a better timeline, but I believe the plan is that they will submit that in June sometime. Is that correct, Kyle?
Yeah, so it should be sometime during the summer. I can check with James and try to get a more exact date, but I think June is probably a pretty good date.
Okay.
I know the submission is in June, so that's when I was told that we're submitting it. The deadline is in June. So
guess we better move our date up a little bit.
Yeah, you would want to move your date up.
Well, I mean, we could submit, we can submit things prior to this. Our bylaws just specify that we have to provide a date of a final report that's due. And so that's just the date that I picked, knowing that it's probably past when this would be submitted. And again, my intention is to submit this as soon as possible in case, any of these ideas are something that they'd want to incorporate. I think sooner rather than later is probably better on that. So
you're thinking the final report is more like a total summary and outcomes. It's not just the report of your recommendations.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And the way I read it, I may be wrong, but that was kind of a final date or a at the latest date. I don't see anything that says, we can't provide it prior to that, but it's just setting. It sounded like it was specifying, you have to say when the latest possible, what the latest possible date is that you would have a final report, because basically you can't have a committee that's exists for longer than 12 months. So you have to set an end date for it. So. All right. If there's no other questions here, be happy to take a motion to create the committee.
Oh, this 3-person committee? Sure. I'll move. So move.
I'll second.
All right. Is that a second?
Yes.
All right. And let's do the same thing. Give me just a second here to form. All right. So all in favor, go ahead and indicate in the text box there. If you're not able to type it, you can just voice it. And then anyone opposed, same method.
Is that right? Oh.
You got it. All right, so I see 7 yeses there. No opposed. Just checking to make sure, do we have everybody accounted for there? I believe we do. So I'm going to say that passed. All right, and let's see, final item here. So Mariah has indicated that, so this is her final year here of her, what are they, 3-year terms, 4-year terms for her position on the board. Currently, our bylaws state that the vice chair is the chair-elect. And so she's thinking ahead here and basically wanting to provide an opportunity for anyone else who's interested in vice chair to take over that position. Did I get that right? Is there anything else you want to add to that, Mariah?
No, that's it. I think that's just good leadership development. So I really feel, and I may request to stay on the board. I just don't know. It'll be 3.5 years of service by that point. And so I just think it's good practice for us to get somebody else into that vice chair role. They can train under you, AJ, and then they can be ready to take on the leadership role in 2023.
Yes. So no pressure on anyone at this point. Just wanted to mention it so that people can consider it. If you have any questions, I'm sure Mariah would be happy to answer those. As much as I know, I'd be happy to answer any questions as well. So I guess I'll leave space here if anybody is really interested in it, or if there's any questions that we want to go over right now. We've got just a couple minutes here, but I'll leave a little time here for questions. If anybody has any.
I have a question.
Sure.
Terry, what's the status of your position?
The status of my position is the contract was up, but it's been renewed for another 12 months.
So they liked your work.
Apparently, they're going to keep me around for a little bit. So
good deal.
Full-time or still part-time?
Still part-time.
Mm-hmm.
So let me go ahead and I'll wrap this up. So no committee reports. Just want to get that out of the way. But yeah, I will say, I did want to say thanks to Terry. That was a great summary you gave at the city council meeting there that I was at in December. It was awesome to hear everything that got done for the previous year. So.
Oh, is that a written document, Terry?
Well, I don't know if there's video of it or it was at a city council meeting. I spoke in person at a city council meeting.
You spoke extemporaneously, or you have some notes you could share with us?
I don't have the notes like handy at this moment, but I spoke
not at this moment.
I can send a link to they record all the city council meetings. I can send you a link to that particular one, Peter.
I assumed the way I operate, Terry, that there'd be a written document that you would have worked from.
I was asked to speak at that meeting. I was given maybe 24 hours notice. I just had simple notes. I did not have a document that I provided for entry into records or anything. They actually had not even adjourned the city council meeting. I spoke prior to the meeting adjourning, or the meeting beginning, so not adjourning.
You spoke prior to the meeting actually starting?
Right.
Yeah. I think it was still recorded. I believe it started recording, so. All right, well, if there's no other questions, I want to make sure we let people go who need to go here. So just looking for a motion to adjourn.
A motion.
So, second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well. All right, if you guys want to stay and ask Terry any more questions or whatever, feel free. I just wanted to make sure we let people go here that needed to go. So thank you guys. Plan on seeing everyone at our next meeting in February.
Can I make a really quick comment before y'all sign off? It's off the record, but it can be recorded. It's fine. I just wanted to publicly say thank you to Marie and AJ and Jeremy, and then Lori. I know she's not here, and of course Isaac. But y'all did a great job on the Biketoberfest safety videos. And I don't think we've actually ever officially acknowledged that in a meeting. So thank you. Y'all did really, really just a great job. Y'all are camera stars. And I thought they just were great and great content for social. I saw them all.